This part is a tedious step. Many would say it's unnecessary. And in a hunting environment, you aren't going to be able to index your second and third follow-up shots. Hopefully you don't need follow-up shots. But your first round at your chamber can be indexed. And the idea is that the case will have a thick spot. Good cases will have very minimal case variation in thickness, but they'll all have a thick spot. This is Nosler brass, and I've indexed, marked these pieces of brass here so far. Once you find your thick spot, the idea is to put the thick spot at 12 o'clock when it's in the chamber, and depending on, I suppose, the type of locking lugs that you have, but most Remingtons are going to have a locking lug at 12 o'clock and at 6 o'clock. But for consistency, we would put the thick part of the case at 12 o'clock. We would mark our case at 3 o'clock, at least in my rifle, because it's a right-hand side eject. And when I push the case in there, I'll be able to roll it around until I see the mark at 3 o'clock, and then I'll drive it home. So the mark doesn't come off during subsequent reloadings and cleanings. We'll permanently mark it, and you'll just use a 3/4 3-corner round file. Once you've determined your mark, you'll just take a couple swipes on the rim and make a mark. And then I'll go back with a Sharpie to make it nice and bright so I can see it, and I'll mark it with a black Sharpie. That Sharpie will come off the next time the thing's tumbled or cleaned, but that little file mark will not come off, and I can re-put the Sharpie on there. And let me show you how you go about finding the thick side of the case. I use a Nico concentricity wall thickness gauge. It's got an anvil, and we run the case in there and set it on one of the steps. The red marker, I'll be marking the thick spot, and then when I go to mark the 3 o'clock position, I'll hold the red spot at 12, and I'll mark the indication mark at the 3 o'clock mark. But we'll roll this case over until we find the high spot. It's going low. It's coming back up to high. It looks like it's right there. And we can re-verify. And it looks like it's right there between those two marks. So I'll go through all the cases, find those marks, and then I'll take my file and I'll take, there's our 3 o'clock position. Put a little mark in it. And then I'll mark that black so I can see it. And 100 cases later, you'll find that this gets pretty old, but you only have to do it once. In this step, we're going to tumble the brass one last time. We're going to use a 50-50 mix of the tough nut and the Hornaday corncob. What we're doing was just softening some of the last final edges on it. We've deburred the inside and outside of the case. We've marked our indexing on them. So we're just going to make sure that we've got it perfectly clean. There's just a hint of grease on it where the stainless steel tumbler didn't quite get it all off, but that's fine. This will do the trick just fine. I've got a 50-50 mix of that tough nut and the corn cob, and then I like to use 2 dryer sheets. This happens to be the Outdoor Fresh. I figured the deer would appreciate that, and I just cut them into a few squares. Nothing fancy. We're going to turn on the tumbler. Basically what the dryer sheets do, at least I feel that they hold some of the dust. Not that anything's coming out of it, but just keeps the media, I think, a little cleaner. I'll let that run for, well, it's new brass, so it's not like we're really getting it clean. The stainless steel tumbler would have gotten any residue off of fired brass, but we're going to let this run for an hour, and we'll check back then. Alright, that's been running about an hour. Pretty good. So we're going to take some of it out so we can get to the brass a little easier. You can see how it looks like it's collected some of the dust. But I start pulling the brass out, and I'll hold it against the side of the drum to shake the media out of it. is fresh out of the vibratory media tumbler, and you might be able to see in the end here. Well, you can't see light through. Because there's a piece of corn cob in the end of it. And I generally just stick the piece in there and just spin it just to walk myself through to make sure there's none in there. But now you can see it's clear. This one here is already clear. But I just like to just double check. It's actually faster just to stick the flash hole deburring tool in every one than to actually physically look. I'm not actually doing any deburring at this moment, just proving that there's nothing jammed in the hole. Well, I'm about to prime these cases, and I was just doing a little inspection. It looks like I didn't quite deburr the inside edge just quite enough with the VLD inside neck deburring tool. But here I've got just a little spring I've stretched out, and I've turned the edge over and and sharpened it so that it's like a hook. And what you can see is when, you should be able to drag this and have it not catch. You can see how it's catching here. Catching on the lip, but now that's not it's a very sharp tool, so it's not much of a lip, but I don't want it to catch the edge of the bullet differently between cases, and it'll very likely cause inconsistent shot start. But you can see this batch over here I went ahead and I've already done, but see that the tool doesn't even catch, it just slips right there. So these are catching an edge. So you just need to be, I can feel the machine just kind of chatter just a little bit here. I'm not pushing very hard because I don't want to sharpen it. I just want to take that edge off. And I've been just giving it enough till I feel that little grab kind of go away on the tool. I mean, I'm just barely setting it on top. I can hear a squeak coming from it, which the squeak is a good sign. But now there's just a hint of an edge right there. So I got to give it just a shade more, but yeah. Yep, and that one's good to go. So just part of the process, making sure that all the way through the process you've just verified that the results are happening the way you want them to. And this was just one thing I was checking before I went ahead and primed them. I was just checking that and found it. Okay, this is my case sorting. I'll basically weigh every case and start setting them out according to weight. Eventually I'll get to see about where we're at, and I'll make up a chart or a spot where I can set them and line them up. In each case you'll weigh, and I've weighed all these, that's why they're all arranged like this with 229.2 grains. And you can see that I line those up in this manner. This one here should be, it's on the cusp. Oh, yeah, 229.1. But I'll weigh all the cases, arrange them like this, and I will look for outliers. And in this case here, we can see that it's the bulk of them are pretty much right here in the middle. We don't have any stringers coming off the side where there's only, you know, 1 or 2 cases way off the side. It looks like the majority, the bulk of them are right in the middle of the pack. A good square. You know, ideally we would see them all, you know, 229.4 or 3 in a single line, but that's not realistic. But we've got a good square stack, not a real shallow triangle, no real stringers off to the side. So in this case, I would just take all of these and consider them all good to go. Perhaps if I was, you know, gonna make 25 rounds for a match, I may take the, you know, 2 center rows here, but then that leaves you with some that are a little heavy, some that are a little light for your next time around, and you've got to keep track of where those are. But in this case right here, they're all pretty much in the center, and gonna treat them as if they're one weight. But that's case sorting by weight in a nutshell.